Welcome to this week's episode. In this episode, we talk to Nikolai Garcia, a poet from South Central Los Angeles. Nikolai is a poet of place. He is a Los Angeles poet. Most of his poems revolve around South Central and its residents. His first chapbook, Nuclear of Shadow Palm Trees, is being released through Distal Arts. This chapbook is a collection of poems of falling in love, living with depression, and persevering in Los Angeles, even when the city you love is trying to push you out. We decided to meet up in South Central in a public library in the evening. In the late 1940s, Central Avenue was a hub of art culture for the African American community. John Dolphin opened up his famous record store in 1948. His record store, Dolphins of Hollywood, made a tremendous mark on the music business. Central Avenue was a hub for jazz musicians in Los Angeles. It attracted figures such as Duke Ellington, Nat King Cole, Louis Armstrong, and Billie Holiday, and even Charlie Parker. We decided to meet up in South Central in a public library on Central Avenue in the evening. Nikolai and I spoke about growing up in South Central during the 1992 Los Angeles Rebellion and how it helped him to better understand the social unrest in Los Angeles. One can argue we continue to see these injustices throughout Los Angeles County.
I don't smoke weed, I smoke palm trees. I rise in the clouds like the 110-105 interchange. I take back airspace from a LAPD chopper, examining freeways, concrete ribbons, anchoring our smog and beaches to the west coast. Each night, I dream about Wanda Coleman. She tells me, one day I'll be as big as the Watts Towers. She says, point your finger in any direction, eventually you'll hit a freeway. Her laugh, a roar. I marvel at how Manchester Avenue creeps into Firestone Boulevard. I promise myself, when the freeways begin to crumble and the city drifts into the Pacific, I will stand watch. When the final palm tree goes up in flames, Wanda Coleman's roar will be the last thing I want to hear. This is called Beyond November, short poem. Beyond November, beyond recounts and fear, beyond grief and liberal tears, there are hearts and there are voices. There are marches from coast to coast. There is the intense sound of unity and the joy of anger. There are poets writing sonnets of resistance. There are musicians composing a soundtrack to our rebellion. There are 1,000 Donald Trump piñatas, and they have all been set on fire. There's a speak out on the campus. There's a gathering on the bridge. There's a protest on the freeway, and none of it is ending soon. It's called Stoppage of Play. The threat of nuclear war has cost a delayed game at Dodger Stadium. Thousands of loyal fans remain in their seats, pecking at smartphones. On the jumbo screen, an announcement from the president. America first, he says. The crowd goes wild. Meanwhile, in Congress, bobbleheads not in approval. Not even the silly hopes for a World Series will remain at Chavez Ravine. Nuclear shadows of palm trees will be the only evidence of where a city once stood.
So, can you talk about where did you start writing poetry? Or I understand you're from South Central. You were born there.
I was raised in South Central, not far from where where we're at right now, the Vernon Library. This is a library I used to come when I was a little kid.
Oh, really?
When I was in elementary, yeah. And it's a trip because it's so small. But when I was little, I just remember this place being like gigantic. Yeah. And so, yeah, I grew up just down the street on 41st Street. Mm-hmm. And that's it. And over, even closer is my elementary school, Wadsworth Avenue School.
Oh, okay.
And that's kind of where I started writing, because I used to have this little composition book, and I used to write like short stories, just short little stories that just to entertain myself. And sometimes I would show them to my teacher, and in particular, there's one teacher I had, I think in fifth grade, Miss Kilkenny, I think was her name. She really encouraged my writing, and sometimes when I would get in trouble, like instead of like giving me some kind of like normal punishment, like standards or whatever, she'd make me like write her a story. Oh, wow. Which it's pretty cool. Yeah. And I mean, she had a big part in helping me understand like the power of writing. Because fifth grade is 92. That's,
yeah.
That's when the L.A. rebellion happened.
Yeah.
And
I remember.
So, we had a couple of days off from school, and when we came back, she just talked to us about it, about what we were feeling or whatever. And so like our homework was to go home and write about our experiences, what we witnessed, So, I was into it. I did the assignment, and the next day she read a bunch of the essays, I guess, that people wrote. I guess some of her favorites, and she read from she read, I think, my whole essay, and there was a part in it, that I didn't think she was going to read, because some of the things that I witnessed when the rebellion was just starting, where there was a group of black women that lived on my block, and they were just like walking up and down the street, kind of like having their own little mini protest. Oh, nice. And they were screaming, "Fuck the police, fuck white people," And so I wrote that, I wrote what I saw, and she read that out loud, and and she's this old white lady, and people were kind of like laughing or whatever, but I was really surprised that she read that, and to me it just showed that she took it real serious, and then she posted some of the best ones or whatever on the bulletin board, and she put up mine, and I was like really proud of it, and I think that's where I realized the power of the written word, So, but yeah, at first I was just into short stories and stuff like that, and then I just got into poetry.
Yeah, funny thing though that you went to ELAC.
Yeah.
And I went to ELAC too. And when you took the journalist class, right? Journalism with Jean Stapleton.
Jean Stapleton.
Yeah,
yes.
Same here.
Oh shit! Really?
Yeah, seriously. Yeah.
Fuck. Was she like? Oh, I'm sure she was harsh on you guys too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. She has a unique way of teaching.
Yeah, she does.
It's very harsh, but it's effective.
Yeah, it's effective. Yeah.
It's effective, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I took journalism classes in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And it was all nice and fun or whatever.
Yeah.
But at ELAC, it's
a
little bit more serious.
Yeah.
If you made a mistake, you got called out in front of the whole class.
Oh yeah, you did. Even you're the editor of the paper.
Yeah, and you were kind of made to feel dumb, and so you made sure never to do that kind of mistake ever again. So it was fucking tough.
Yeah, it was.
I don't know if she can still get away with that kind of teaching right now. People are like pretty sensitive. I don't know, but
yeah, you had to like stand up there and like, oh, who wrote this? And then you mark it red.
Yeah, headlines, everything.
Yeah, everything. Yeah,
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God. Yeah, but you wrote for other papers, right? You were like a reporter, I think, and you went to Mexico.
Yeah. I guess in the early 2000s, I was writing for what was then called the Revolutionary Worker. I think now it's called Revolution Newspaper. It's local communist newspaper. So I would write a lot, having to do mostly with things about like pop culture. Everything from like gangster rap to SpongeBob to the Dixie Chicks. But yeah, one time I was able, with another LA reporter, to go to Cancun, where there was like this really big protest going on. And this was, at the time, people traveled from all over the world to go to these anti-globalization protests against like the WTO, the IMF, stuff like that. So yeah, there was thousands of people from all over the world protesting. In particular, I remember there's a large contingent of Koreans. Most of them were farmers. Okay. And on the very first day of the protests, everybody marched over there, and there's this huge fence. There's this huge fence to keep everybody away from like the area where they were having their meeting. I think it was IMF, and people just started like beating on the fence and trying to open it, or using crowbars and all kinds of stuff. And some people were climbing it, and in particular this one Korean farmer climbed all the way to the top and like in protest stabbed himself. Yeah, so yeah, he ended up dying.
Wow.
It was intense.
Wow.
It was intense. That kind of set the mood for like the rest of the week.
Before or after the Democratic convention in downtown? Because I remember I wasn't allowed to go to that.
That's
like 2000.
a good question. It might have been.
Except that like there's a bunch of punk shows, like protesting the DMC.
Mean, Rage Against the Machine had a show. Yeah, I was at that.
Did you get pepper sprayed?
I
know a lot of homies of
did
mine.
not get pepper sprayed. I came pretty close.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people that I was with ended up getting shot with like rubber
bullets.
Rubber bullets, and people were close to getting like trampled by the fucking the horses.
Yeah.
The horses. There were cops on horses. My favorite chant that night was it? Get those animals off those horses. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah.
But yeah, that was wild too.
So let's talk a little bit about your chapbook, because I feel like it's a real personal chapbook. I read some of the poems before this interview, and it's pretty intense. I know you're inspired by Wanda Coleman. She's an amazing. She was from Compton, right?
She was from Watts.
Watts. Yeah, Watts. And the way I found her about her work was I was at the Central Library here in downtown Los Angeles, and I was looking for Bukowski, and she was right next to Bukowski because she was in the same Black Sparrow Press.
Black Sparrow Press, yeah. Yeah, she was a contemporary of Bukowski, yeah.
So how'd you get into her work?
I think, actually was from my creative writing class at ELAC. Because we had an amazing teacher, Carol Lem, who introduced us to a whole bunch of different writers. I mean, she introduced me to Bukowski, to Jimmy Santiago Baca, to Marilyn Chen, Adrian Rich, and Wanda Coleman. There's this one big anthology that came out called The Geography of Home, and it's all California poets. Oh, okay. And I think my teacher had 2 poems in there. But Wanda Coleman was one of the people that was in there, and she had some awesome pieces in there, and that's how I found out about her.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Did you ever meet her,
or? Yeah, I got to meet her. I mean, I didn't get to really get to know her or anything. I met her at at signings, at book signings. Like at the UCLA. Well, back when it was at UCLA, the LA Times Festival of Books.
Oh,
yeah, I met her there a couple of times. So, I think most of the Wanda Coleman books I owned are signed by her, autographed by her.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and also actually, my first one of my first big publications was in this other anthology about L.A. poets. It's called The Coiled Serpent, published by Chucha Press. And so I have a couple of poems in there, and Wanda Coleman has a poem in there. So I'm very, very proud that I'm in anthology with Wanda Coleman, along with a bunch of other poets. So I don't know, it's like 100-something poets in there. Or at least it feels like. Yeah. But no matter what happens, I can at least say that I'm in anthology with Wanda Coleman.
Also, it's just that your chapbook it's almost like it's bittersweet because it's like a love-hate relationship with the city of Los Angeles.
Yes, it's very true. It's very true. I mean, there's a lot to love about the city. I think mostly the people. Yeah. But I mean, there's a lot to hate about it. Me personally, I can't stand the weather, the heat. Yeah. I envision myself moving one day to like Seattle or Portland, somewhere with a lot of rain. I'm not here where it never rains. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, when Luis from Distill Arts first, approached me about, putting together this chapbook, it was gonna be more centered around music. Okay. Originally, I thought I was gonna call it All the Sad Music, and it was just gonna be a bunch of old, sad emo poems, a lot of sad boy poems. But around that same time, I started writing a lot of LA poems, or poems about the city, and so I kind of changed direction. I took out a bunch of poems and put in some new ones, like the Wanda Coleman one, because some of those poems in there are pretty old. They're pretty old, yeah. And the ones that have to do more with LA and the people of LA, those are more, more fresh, I guess I would say. Yeah. And it's weird, because I was talking about Carol Lem, like a long time ago, she had told me, you're going to be one of those LA poets, based off some homework assignment that she gave us. Yeah. And I didn't really think much of it. I was just like, okay, cool, whatever. I didn't think it was a compliment or a diss or anything. It was just kind of something she thought, and I was like, okay, because I mean that's not really the kind of poetry I wanted to write. Oh, okay. I wanted to be like this hardcore, political poet. All right. That's all I wanted to do. But my art, my craft just went in a different direction. Yeah. And so when I was putting the book together, my craft went in a different direction again, and I became a poet of place. And yeah, that's what I got good at and known as that. And a bunch of my poems that have been published are like LA poems, even to this day.
Oh, so you're also the managing editor, right, of Dryland?
Assistant editor.
Oh, assistant, yeah.
Assistant editor for Dryland, which is a literary journal based in or born in South Central LA. Okay. Yeah, and the founding editor, the editor-in-chief is Viva Padilla. Yeah. Who is also, from South Central, and she has her own, unique story.
Oh, great. Yeah. I like how you guys did that poetry hotline.
Oh, yeah. How
that came about, that was pretty unique.
I I don't remember how we came up with that. I think we were just shooting ideas around, and part of it had to do with the fact that it takes us like a whole year to put an issue together, and so we were kind of trying to do something in the meantime, something that we could do quick and put online and keep the website fresh with fresh content or whatever. And I mean, I guess also part of it was maybe we were thinking about when you call in to like the radio and like request songs and whatnot, so maybe that had something to do with it. But yeah, I mean, we haven't really done it since. We have Viva has some kind of excuse as to why we don't do it anymore. Something to do with technology, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it was fun while it lasted.
Yeah. How popular was it? Like,
I don't know. We did get a good amount of people calling in, submitting. Yeah. But we were like just really tough about what to accept.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. How many submissions do you guys get, per issue?
I mean, I just started helping her with the last issue. I'd been published in the journal before, and I didn't want to submit anymore. I kind of wanted to take a bigger role. I wanted to help out. So that's why she made me like a contributing editor and then assistant editor. So right now we're working on issue 10.
Yeah.
And this is only my second issue. And I mean, we're getting a lot more submissions than we did last year, but that's because we kind of had like a lot of big time publicity.
Oh yeah, you guys written up in the L.A. Times, right? The California section.
Yeah, we had a really nice photo of us on the front cover of the California section, and a nice write up, about like the creation of Dryland and Viva's story and whatnot. So we're getting a lot more submissions than last year, and we're not even done. And then we're using Submittable this time, which kind of makes it a little bit easier. And I think for some people it makes it easier to submit. I mean, at least that's what I feel. Yeah. Because I rather submit using Submittable when I send in submissions than emails that can just like get lost and whatnot.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, we're still getting emails. I mean, email submissions. We got about, 20 of those right now. But the submittal ones, I don't even know. It's too many to count. And we're going through them. We opened for submissions on Halloween. We're going to close in March, so we're still getting them. It's what? Yeah. For a while, we were kind of averaging like a submission a day.
Really?
Yeah, one or two, yeah.
So for like how many months?
I mean, like I said, it's been open since Halloween.
Wow.
And recently we read a bunch of submissions, and we did all the ones from October 31st until the end of December.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot. It's a lot.
So we still got a lot. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work, yeah.
So it's a lot of work. It's a lot of commitment to, the written word.
Yeah, but it's worth it. It's worth it. You get to discover a bunch of awesome writers.
Yeah,
Discover a bunch of awesome writers, and then, when we have the release party and we get to meet some of them, for the first time. And I remember for some of them, last issue was like the first time being published, and like people get like real happy. Like, I mean, I get hella happy when I get published anywhere, so I can only imagine, Yeah. So it's worth it. It's worth it,
all right. I think, I'm going to wrap things up because the library is closing. So any last words?
I'm just wondering where my writing is going to evolve next.
Yeah. Are you working on anything for the future?
I'm kind of going to go back to my original idea, and I want to do another chapbook, and this one is definitely going to be called All the Sound Music, and all the poems are going to be, around music.
Okay.
And I already have a few down. I still got a bunch more to go, though.
Okay.
And I had so much fun at my release party last year that I want to do it again.
Oh, great. Where did you guys have it?
We had it at Book Show, which unfortunately no longer exists
Oh,
thanks to gentrification in Highland
course.
Park.
oh, Highland Park.
Yeah.
Where could people find you
Um,
on your social medias?
yeah, social media, Twitter and Instagram. It's at Hello Kami, Kami with a K, so HELLOKOMMIE, or also on my website, which is
This is the
nikolaigarcia.weebly.com.
sound of an
All right,
American
well,
flag
thank you so
fire
much.
redux.
Thanks.
All right. Okay.
It's the sound you hear when you turn off your TV. It's the sound that old men make at night as they sleep on the sidewalk outside empty loft buildings. It's the sound of air escaping your mouth after you get the notice that your rent is increasing. It's that same sound you heard when you tore that ticket for jaywalking. It's the sound of your head getting slammed on a police cruiser. And the sound you hear when the power company shuts off your electricity after a hard day of working. It's the flash on a camera phone when a Latina border agent takes a selfie. It's that ringing in your ear when someone tells you to go back to your country. It's the click from a key as toddlers are locked in cages. It's the exact same sound you hear in your head when you look around and realize it doesn't have to be this way.